All right, so what we're going to be discussing here is the body's position that we get to the moment our front foot gets into the ground for the very first time. And this moment in time is called our foot strike. So we are going to be talking about the moment when, boom, those feet get into the ground for the very first time. And again, that's called our foot strike position. At foot strike, we want to be looking at our body in two halves, our upper half and our lower half. At foot strike, we want our lower half to have rotated forward towards our target. And a useful thing to look at to know if we've been able to do that is the belt buckle. And is that belt buckle facing the target? If the belt buckle is facing the target, it's a pretty good chance that we have successfully rotated both the back foot, the back knee, and the back hip. When we're able to rotate the back foot, the back knee, and the back hip, as our front foot is getting into that foot strike position, we will successfully be able to get our belt buckle driving towards the target. If we specifically take a look at just the back foot of these four guys, let's watch as they are rotating that back leg, how that back foot is rotating. At this point in time, all four guys still have their entire foot flat onto the ground, and then they begin to rotate through or over top of their big toe. Their foot kind of rolls, folds over, or drives forward. And as the foot does that motion, we now shift our view to the back knee and know as the foot is rolling over the big toe, that the back knee is also rotating forward. And how those two things, the back foot and the back knee, are working together. We can also see that as we go to drive and rotate that back foot and back knee, how they do that while they gain ground down the mound and towards their catcher. So this is the difference between rotating our bodies forward, or a word for that is driving ourselves forward, versus just rotating in place. If we were just rotating in place, our bodies would not be able to gain this ground down the mound. Our bodies wouldn't be able to accelerate our power and energy down the mound. And we can then look and see that the foot has the toe and then the heel is in front of the toe, meaning we have rotated forward. We then go to the upper body, the upper halves, from the waist up, and we want to separate that upper body from the lower body. We want the direction that our hips are facing, which is to the target, to be separate from the direction our shoulders are facing. So we notice we can see the Giants, the the Pirates, and his number. We can see the Phillies, and we can see the Brewers or Milwaukee. I'm not sure what they have displayed on their jerseys there. So the direction of their lower bodies is to the target, and the direction of their shoulders is still facing, for these right-handers, towards third base, or the direction they have been the entire time. So we rotate the lower body first, then we get into foot strike, then we rotate our upper body second. And the more that we can get those lower bodies to fully rotate to the target by the time that front foot hits the ground, and we've also been able to keep that upper body from rotating and staying back, we will have created as much upper lower half separation or hip shoulder separation as possible. And the more hip shoulder separation or upper lower half separation we can create, the more power we're going to be able to produce, and the amount of stress that's put on our arm is going to be reduced. What we're also going to notice is that almost regardless of your arm slot, if we have a true 3/4, low 3/4, high 3/4, an over-the-top arm slot, or anything in between those, we're always going to find ourselves in a relatively 90 degree angle, meaning from our elbow across to our other shoulder, we want to think is nice and even. 90 degrees in that armpit. We also want to think 90 degrees in that elbow. We want this type of arm position, that 90-90, we'll call it, at the moment of foot strike. When our arm has loaded up to this position here, at the moment of foot strike, and the upper body has not rotated yet, our body's rotation will accelerate the throw forward. If the arm is not in this 90-90 position, the body's rotation forward is going to be less than ideal and in sync with how the arm will flow after the body goes. So we're looking for this 90-90-ish position in that throwing arm at foot strike. What we can also notice at foot strike is, where is this glove at? It's in front of the body by the rib cage. We're not letting it, if we're thinking here's some water, don't drown the glove. Don't let your glove get wet. Don't drown that glove. This one right here is a little too high. Should be more towards the belt. Okay. When the glove gets finished into the body like this, it's able to help keep this front shoulder in line, meaning it's not going to open up early. Because if that front shoulder starts to open up early, that's going to start to pull the back shoulder forward early. And now we would not have separated our upper and lower halves as much, because the angle of the shoulders would begin to rotate forward, which would be more matching the angle of the hips. The final thing we're going to look at is this front leg. We see all these guys have different degrees of bend in their front legs. But what we're going to notice is that as the upper body now rotates to throw, we need to make our front leg become a firm fixture of which we can rotate around. So thinking about this front leg here turning into a flagpole. My flagpole is always going to be strongest if it's straight. Or at least I can't have my flagpole move forward while my body is trying to rotate forward. So we'll redraw these little outlines here, and we will have these guys. Oh man, that's all right. It's going to get back to it anyway. Boom. And now we'll watch as they go to throw. How that leg is locking out, stiffening up, straightening out. So that now that leg is here. Now that leg is here. Now that leg is here and here. From the bend, straightening it out. And what we can notice is as that leg locks out, stiffens up, straightens out, becomes that firm flagpole, notice how that upper body is able to catapult itself out in front and down more. Able to get out in front more. Out in front more. So that way, if we look, we can't get everyone exactly at release, but ball just out, ball is coming out, ball is slightly a little bit more out than the bottom two. But we're able to look at this angle of the chin to the waist, back out to the front foot, boom, boom, boom. Just how out in front of themselves they're getting. And that's because of that front leg's ability to lock out. So we can see that they're starting, boom, boom, there, and there. So now it's not just the arm throwing the ball down, it's the body throwing the ball down. It's the body going down with the throw, body accelerating down. And as the body's accelerating down, the lower half is firming up. So that way, as I need to finish all this violent rotation, I have the ability to do that around that firm front leg. I have that ability to rotate around. I can finish all that violent rotation from my back leg around. I can finish all that violent rotation from my hips around. I can finish all that violent rotation out of my back shoulder around, giving my arm plenty of time to slow down and giving the back muscles, my scapular muscles, all the time they need to activate and slow down that rapidly accelerating arm. Okay, now that you've gotten the opportunity to see your individual video plus learn and see the good visual description of the pitching mechanics from the side view in that quad box, we got 3 and 3 working in your own quad box with a big leaguer to help us better understand the things that we're going to want to work on in our mechanics. All right, now that you guys have gotten the opportunity to watch your individual video and had the opportunity to watch, learn, and study from the big leaguer side quad box. So now here you guys are in a quad box with that side perspective with Jacob deGrom added with you. So we'll play this through, being able to see what you look like compared to others and to a big leaguer. There we are at foot strike. So at foot strike, like we learned in the big league video, we need to have everything in the lower half rotated towards the target, which means the back foot rotated to the target, the back knee rotated to the target, the back hip driving to the target, front foot going to the target, front knee going to the target, front hip opening up to the target, all while those shoulders stay unrotated. They stay squared up. My chin is looking over my shoulder to my target. My arm is in a 90 degree bend. When I get this at this moment of foot strike, I am going to be able to rotate my shoulders forward and my arm will just follow along with it, loose and whippy. If my arm is not in a 90 because my elbow is too low, or I'm not in a 90 because my hand is too close to my head, as my shoulders rotate forward, my arm will be in a less than ideal position to be able to flow down and out away from our body. So we can see, although we are in a good 90 here, that front shoulder has already begun to open up, so your chin is looking over nothing. Whereas we're looking over shoulder. Front shoulder is fighting to stay there. We're trying to continue to look over it, and we're doing a good job of keeping that front shoulder in here, so we are looking over it. We then go look at your guys' back legs, and we can see that we have successfully driven away, rotated away, driven forward with the backside, driven away, rotated forward, and driven forward with the back hip, back foot, back knee, back hip is right? We can really tell it, the belt buckle's going that way. We can really tell the belt buckle's going that way. We can really tell the belt buckle's going that way. Here we can't really know for sure if it's kind of going, obviously it's not here anymore, but is it this way? Probably not. It's looking like it's more over here. So we've got to learn how to get that back hip to really go. You'll notice that your back hip does really go right there. See how much more that hip is rotating? All the other guys' hips are rotating more at that same point in time that yours are, but you're getting the most rotation out of your hips now. Where guys like Quitmeyer up here, they're finishing their hips. They're finishing the hips. Stepp over here, he's finishing the hips. Finishing the hips. Same with deGrom. He's finishing the hips, getting to release. You are really getting your hips going at that point in time. So we just need to get everything back here just a little bit more aggressive so that way it can achieve its movements to completion a little sooner. A little sooner meaning this back hip will be driven a little more, resulting in that belt buckle getting more towards that target. Ultimately giving us more of that lower half separation or those hip to shoulder separation, which creates our velocity. The hips going one way and the shoulders fighting to stay away from that. We then get you guys to go through that one more time, and what we're really going to focus on, and the biggest thing for most of us in this quad box specifically, is learning how to get ourselves going down the mound. during our leg lift. So I got these lines up on everyone. All of these lines here are identical to the lines here, which are identical to the lines here, and are identical to the lines here. I just had to change the color for DeGrom so you could see it with the red bleachers back there from the COVID season when no one's in the stands. What we're going to notice is as you guys lift your legs up, none of your bodies are gaining ground down the mound during your leg lift. The only one that's going to be doing so is DeGrom. So let's watch here in how Nicky's almost all the way through his leg lift and his body has not gone forward at all. We got Stepp over here who just completed his full leg lift, yet his body has not gone anywhere at all. I believe this is Neubauer? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think this is Neubauer. Same with you, bud. Your leg came all the way up, and your body is still in the same spot. We watched DeGrom here, and just watch how his body starts to go into these lines during this leg lift. There he goes, there he goes, there he goes, there he goes, there he goes. See that? He's already gaining momentum down the mound before that leg is at its peak. So that way, once it's at its peak, watch where his body just keeps going. That leg hasn't gone down at all yet. But his body is going forward. Right? Most of you guys don't start going forward until that leg, front leg, takes you forward. You guys don't start going forward until that front leg gets out in front of you, and then you go forward with that front leg. This is what I have been harping to you two guys last year. Get it up, get it going. Get it up, get it going. Get it up, get it going. We can't be slow and gradual with this leg lift in the stretch. We're going to get dominated on the base paths. We got to feel that body gaining ground during the leg lift. I make sure we're gaining ground during this leg lift. So if I just play it uninterrupted here for you to see, and I paused it here, just look at the difference. You guys' heads are stuck in between this first gap, this first gap, this first gap. Where's DeGrom? He's already getting into the next one. Right? Nicky's finally caught up to what's going on, but we were behind. Now it's going to take an elite athlete to spring everything out in front in the little amount of time that you've given yourself. And because we are so far back with our upper body, your upper body is tilting so far back that you're back, and now when you get this arm loaded up, this is still down. You're trying to stay back to drive forward instead of getting yourself going forward and then being able to explode it out of that. Because you've gotten no momentum going down, you got to get this huge lean back to then try to drive it out. But it's not on time because your arm is not getting up to where it needs to be. It's below you. Right? So the biggest thing for all three of you guys here is we got to learn how to get it up, get it going. Like I said in our talk, we can't wait for the leg lift to get to its 100% height before we start going anywhere. We have to already be in motion as that leg is still coming up. You guys' legs are going down and you're still not going forward. DeGrom's leg is still going up and he's going forward. That's why DeGrom throws 100 miles an hour and y'all throw whatever you throw. Okay? So the next thing we're going to see here is at foot strike, how much does your upper body get out in front and down to help your hand get out in front and throw the ball down? There we are at release. So we can see very little oomph. Why very little oomph with your chest going down? Well, because you're not loading your legs very much. So we're just kind of tall, and we're probably going to want to stay tall as we then throw, right? But so when that engages the legs a little bit more, like these two guys here are probably going to find themselves able to get out in front more before release. Now, everyone needs to get better at this skill. Everyone needs to be able to get out in front more. We need to get this ball being released in front of us, not just above us. All right, so we got to think about reaching out there. And the only way I can reach out there, fellas, is if my body gets out there. And the only way my body can get out there is if it's not stuck here over the pitching rubber at the top of the leg lift. But we got to be gaining momentum to that target before the leg starts to come down. So when the leg does come down, we're flying down this mound. We're not just trying to drift down the mound. All right, we got to learn how to be aggressive. Next group, same thing from your side view here. Taking a look, comparing what you just learned with that big leaguer quad box to what you're seeing your body doing here. With Ben Joyce as your comp. Now, same thing as that last group. We got all the same lines here, so you just see your body and the progression you're making down the mound during your leg lift. And what we're going to see is all of you guys get to the top of your leg lifts, and you guys have not gone anywhere. You have not made any progression down the mound with your body. You are stagnant. You are stuck in place. As soon as the leg comes up, look where Ben Joyce is going. Look at that front hip. Look at that front hip. Look at that front hip. Look at that whole body now. His whole body has momentum started forward. So he does not have to use power to go forward. You guys are all having to use some type of power or some type of movement to get you going. And what's the movement that we do over here to get you going? You're pushing that butt out. You're pushing that butt out and leaning those shoulders back. Right? If we do this movement of tilting the shoulders back and pushing the hip forward, we need to be elite athletes who can flip that script and get the shoulders back above the hips at the flip of a dime. The window to be able to do it in is so small that we need to be an elite athlete to be able to do it like the way you guys are trying to do it here. Okay? Ben Joyce throws 104 miles an hour. And look, he's gaining momentum to the target, and now he is flying to that target. Look, our head hasn't even gotten beyond that front pole. Our head has not even past that front pole. Our head has just now passed that first pole. Ben Joyce is getting into the third one already, fellas. All right, so this shows you guys the urgency to get through this delivery here and to get that foot in the ground so we can throw. All right, I had to slow Joyce's video down so much in order to match your guys' same foot strike time. Right? Boom. Now that he's in foot strike, let's look at these lines here. Okay. Look how much further some of us are getting down the mound than others. Now, the biggest thing to understand is all this energy that I sent forward to my target, boom, now gets turned into rotational power. But I still got to take my rotation forward. So now we got from your hips to your shoulders is the yellow line. And then the other line is where you're going to be able to get to eventually at release. We can see very little chest going forward as we're throwing. we can see very little chest going forward as we're throwing because look where the head's going. It's over here. It's hard to want to go this way if you're looking this way. And we can see decent amount here, but definitely could use more to get this ball released more out in front of you. If I drew a line straight down from your hand, as best I can on this trackpad, we're barely at the toes. I do it over here, we're better here, we're out in front here. Do it here, we're just at the toes. And obviously we see Joyce hasn't quite thrown it yet. We got to go a little further for him. Somewhere in those two ranges, right? So we just said there's that first start of the streak is right there. We drew that down as straight as I could. All right, we're just trying to get out in front as much as we can, guys. The only way we can get out in front as much as we can is if our body is going out as quickly and as early as it can. We need to be able to get momentum going to that target before the leg gets to the top of the leg lift. Otherwise, we're going to get dominated in the running game. And then drive everything forward and down. Down, 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 down. The ball's got to go down. The only way it's going to go down in 60 feet is if we accelerate it down. All right, we're going to be discussing the mechanics from a front view, and we're just going to concern ourselves with our path or the flow down the mound. So we already got these videos to the top of these guys' leg lifts. Obviously, every pitcher comes down the mound at different rates, different speeds. However, to make these guys flow together, I have changed up their speeds to fit. So what we're going to see is that we got Jerry Jones over here getting that front leg fully extended and really sitting into his delivery. We got Greinke, who's got his knee, which is going to be further back towards second base than his foot is. He's really taking this front knee and kind of curling it back so that his front hip stays closed. And Kirby is going like Jones here with his front leg, but he's keeping it in a more bent position rather than kicking it straight out like Jones. But what we do notice is no matter how these guys load into their back hips, getting down into their legs, engaging their lower halves, what do we notice? We notice where the glove's going. And that's to help them be able to see over their front shoulder. They want to be looking down the barrel of their shoulder, because the longer we can be looking here over this shoulder as we proceed down the mound, obviously we've gotten back to center, but look, we're still looking right over that shoulder, still looking right over that shoulder, still looking right over that front shoulder. The longer we can do that into our moment of foot strike, bam, bam, we can see front shoulder, and our head is still trying to fight to keep that front, or rather our front shoulder is still fighting to stay above our chin. The front shoulder is still fighting to stay in above the chin. The front shoulder is still fighting to stay in above the chin. And when we do that, we can see that the back hip now has been able to come through, exposing the belt buckle to the batter, to our catcher, but preventing, because that front shoulder is fought to stay in so that we continue to look over it. Look what that's done with our chest. It's kept it squared up, squared up, squared up, as that lower half has been able to fire, and there lies our upper lower half separation that we're trying to achieve. And now here comes the most important part. Getting into this position is key for both our power production, our ability to throw the baseball with our body, thus reducing the amount of stress that's going on through our arm during that delivery, and helping ensure, this wasn't the straightest line here, helping ensure our energy continues to flow to the catcher. All right, we can see that head staying there, that head staying there. Kirby's fighting to keep it in there. And you can see he's fighting to keep it in there because it did not go more out there. So we're rotating that back shoulder. We're rotating that back shoulder forward. forward, forward, forward. So that way all of our power can be flung through those fingers, out through that ball, forward. If we watch that again without any interruption, into foot strike, out of foot strike. Everything staying in line with our target. And then noticing as they're getting into release, where are those chin and chests going? To the target. To the target. The angle of our trunk, this mass from our shoulders through our waist, our trunk right now is upright. It's above our hips. In relation to the ground, it's in a 90-degree angle. As we get into release, those trunks in relation to the ground are no longer up here trying to throw the baseball. Instead, in relation to the ground, these trunks of these elite throwers of the baseball, both in terms of command, the best to ever do it, in terms of longevity and success, one of the best to do it, and an upcomer with elite velocity and potential to be an all-star. Every one of their trunks at release went from being up here at foot strike to out here at release, bringing that energy down the mound, but most importantly, towards our target. And that's something that we're able to see even easier and more clearly in the side view videos. All right, so if we kind of take this back once more and we see these arm slots, we'd say, boom. Oops, let me draw a better line than that. Right, we're at a high three-quarter, three-quarter. We are in a same thing, three-quarter, high three-quarter. Same thing here, right? So these are some of your most common arm slots are the three-quarter to high three-quarter arm slot. And then what we'll look at next here are some guys that are in that lower three-quarter tier. So we'll let, we got Luis Hill, Kyle Harrison, and Carl Crawford. Right, so the same thing, moment of that foot strike, we can see that they're still fighting to keep that front shoulder in, keep that front shoulder in, fighting to keep that front shoulder in, and then coming to release and through, we can see how those heads are fighting to stay in. Luis Hill a little bit outside, but we can see through release, bam, it's there, it's there, it's there, it's there. Now it's out, which is no big deal. It's already stable for long enough post-release, bam, that he could do a cartwheel over here if he wanted to after. So fighting to keep that front shoulder in, And by doing that, the shoulders have stayed squared up and with a good lower half timing and pattern sequencing. We got the back hip to have come forward, the back hip to have come forward, exposing that belt buckle to the batter, creating that upper and lower half separation that we're trying to seek in order to achieve higher velocities and minimize the stress that's put on our arm during these high intense and continuous throws. If we then take these guys into their moment of release, we got that same concept that we did earlier, and we can see here's our low 3/4, even getting closer, some would say, to even true sidearm. We have that low 3/4, and we got that 3/4 to low 3/4. But what we can notice is all the same with those different arm slots, but the most common arm slots in our game. All these guys are fitting the same bill in their own unique ways, but these important key points are all very much getting checked off by each, no matter what. All right, now that you guys have gotten the opportunity to watch and study from the Big League Front video breakdown, we got you guys in groups of 3 to be able to see yourselves individually and next to some teammates of that front views perspective to help us understand what we want to work on here. All right, so we're going to start with you 3 guys. We'll let this roll. Everyone's synced up to that front foot hitting the ground, aka our foot strike. Boom, there we are. Like we learned in foot strike positioning from those big league videos, at this point in time, we want to see this leg not so much on this awkward angle here because it's going to be almost impossible for us to throw and keep that leg there. What's going to probably end up happening is that knee is going to end up going somewhere over here. A good example of the adjustment we want to make would be looking at the foot positioning here. Who is that? Is that Stepp? Yeah, it's Stepp. His front leg here is very, very good, right? And what we'll notice as your video continues to go forward from here, boom, there goes your knee exactly to where I thought it would go, making it look exactly like Nikki's knee. So what's happening? You're trying to rotate your shoulders around this way, but what else is going around this way? That knee. Right? I can't rotate something aggressively if my whole body is going that way. I need to rotate into a firm front side. My firm front side is his front leg. Notice that as Stepp is throwing here, how that knee doesn't really give at all. There's a little bit, it's just a little bit, but it's pretty stable. He's able to rotate these shoulders around something that's relatively firm. Versus you, who's trying to rotate around this flimsy twig here that just goes to the right, then back to the left, and to the right. It's just wibble wobble the whole time. That's an unstable front leg. We can't throw hard or accurately with an unstable front leg. We can see over here, we're not striding forward, we're not rotating forward, we're just kind of opening it up. See how your front legs is already opened? You just open it up, and now you're just going to step it out. Stepping it out. All right, so we can see right here we got heel of Stepp is going this way. Toe of Stepp's going this way. So as long as his foot's somewhere in that range, he's going straight. Boom, he's inside of that there. His stride straight. We do that same thing over here. What is that, Charles? There. And we do the same thing. As long as his foot's somewhere touching that line or inside, he's straight. Boom, he's straight. We do that same thing for you. And your back heel is here going this way. Your front toe is here going this way. Obviously, those aren't the straightest lines. I'm using my MacBook's trackpad. But then we can see, where's your foot go? It's going outside of that path. So you're opening up your stride instead of rotating your stride forward. What do we notice all 3 of you guys have an issue of? We're not looking over anything. Our chin should be looking over our shoulder that we just learned about. It's also going to be very tough to throw if your glove is blocking your eyes from seeing your target, dude. So that's probably the first thing. Let's get that glove out of your eyes. Notice where everyone else has it at. Rotating it to that armpit, rib cage, top hip area. Versus it being in the way from you seeing. Right? So all of us, we got to learn how to keep these shoulders back. Keep these shoulders back as the back side leg rotates forward. Rotates forward. Rotates forward. Shoulders got to stay back. All right? That's your guys' biggest thing, because now when you throw, our body's already wanting to go this way. Our body's already wanting to go this way. Our body's already wanting to go this way, which is going to make it harder for us to rotate that back shoulder forward. And what we're going to see is all of you guys kind of stay on that angle you've already started. And you're trying to fight not to go that way, right? That's why your head's going so far over here. That's why your chin is really lifting up, because you're trying not to go over there. So we really got to work on keeping those front shoulders in. If you could be here with your front arm at the moment of foot strike, we'd be good. But we're just letting things develop too quickly with the upper body. What's the easiest way for the upper body not to feel like it has to be going? If the lower body is already going. So we just made a full circle all the way back to get it up, get it going. Get it up, get it going in relation to the leg lift. Next group here, same thing. Got you guys synced up to foot strike. Right, and what we can see here is our chin looking over our shoulder, just like we saw in the big league video. Our chin really fighting to stay over that shoulder. That shoulder's getting close to getting out, and it's just close to getting out because the elbow has reached its max distance behind your back that it can potentially go without the front shoulder needing to go with it. Same thing over here. We're fighting the best we can to keep that in, which is good. But the reason that we are just a hair away from opening up is because this elbow can't go any further this way without the shoulder also going with it. Right? So we just see the difference in how stretched out this is, how stretched out this is because of this and this being so far away from this. And then we look at how there's no stretching going on over here because this, oops, let me do that better. This and this is much, much closer. Right? So if we want to keep this shoulder in even more, we got to delay this glove's action from getting all the way over here. Right? So watch how early the gloves go from being in this lane over here, this lane over here, this lane over here, and how quickly the glove gets out of that lane, out of that lane, out of that lane. So boom, we're already out of our lane. Boom, we're already out of our lane. And we never got out of our lane here. Right? So it's keeping this glove, riding it out. Ride it out down the road here. Don't get off your road. Your exit is not there yet. Your exit to get off of the road is after foot strike. Boom. All right, so hopefully that visual helps you. And the big thing for you, bud, and I don't think we mentioned it with the side view, is making sure that front leg is locking out or firming up. Got this leg in a great spot here, and it would probably be easier to see it from the side view than is the front view. But if we watch these two guys, their knees are going to go from this bend to no bend as they're rotating forward. Right? See how Nikki's leg is really, really straight here? I'm sorry, I don't remember your name quite yet. But his leg is trying to straighten out. See how it goes from that bend to straight? And your leg is in the bend, and that bend doesn't really straighten out until now. We can see your body's going up, right there. Up, right there. What we need to think about is locking or getting this front leg to be firm so we can violently rotate around that firm leg. And because your knee keeps bending, it doesn't get firm. Be just like hitting. If you get fooled on a changeup, that front leg buckles as your weight drifts forward. And now that your weight has drifted forward, you got no power to deliver your hands through the zone with for your swing. Very similar concept here with throwing. If we don't get this front leg to firm up for us, we can't rotate around it as violently. And we can just see how much more violence there is in Nikki's rotation here coming through. Oops, wrong button. Coming through. because he's over this firm front leg to do it. Boom. Boom. Versus yours kind of just getting caught right there. There's just a little bit more power that we can deliver around with our shoulders if we're rotating around a firm front side.